What was the original idea?
The original idea was a woman in a tree. And I had learned of an incredible woman named Julia Butterfly Hill, who was a young woman who lived in a Redwood for over 700 days. And I thought that that was so fascinating and inspiring. And this idea to me of a woman escaping, and also the sort of the strength, the fortitude that it would take for someone to do that, I was questioning myself. I was curious if that was something I could ever do. I thought the idea of a woman in a tree could be a really beautiful musical. And yes, different, but I think you have to try to tell new stories and break some rules, and it's worked out okay for me.
Yeah, it's worked out okay. You talked about the strength that it takes for a woman to do something like this.
Mm-hmm.
It takes some fortitude for you to do this. You're taking a bit of a gamble here.
Yeah, I guess you could see it as a gamble.
You push yourself.
I push myself.
Why?
I don't feel like it's pushing myself. I feel like I put myself in a room with creative people that I really look up to and respect, and I get excited to be challenged and have them challenge me and to discover new parts of myself, whether it be me as a mother, a wife, a daughter, sister, but then as the performer, as the artist, as the creative person. It doesn't feel like I'm pushing myself as much as I'm trying to open myself up to new experiences.
And that's kind of like Jessie opening herself up, I guess.
Yes, Jessie needs to open herself up, but she's, in the beginning of our play, she's very guarded. And when she finds herself in the midst of these incredible giants, somehow her heart opens, and she's able to find a sense of resilience and healing again.
You're in the Nederlander Theater,
Mm-hmm.
which is the same theater where you opened Rent.
Yes. 30 years ago, anybody?
What's it like to be coming back?
Yeah, it's like a homecoming for me. It's full circle. It's very emotional for me, to be honest. When I did Rent, that was the first professional job I ever had, and it was a Broadway show, so I was super lucky. That was a beautiful time in my life. It was very bittersweet at the time with losing Jonathan Larson, our composer, and all of that, but also I really learned how life imitates art and how we were doing a show about artists not compromising their creativity and their dreams and artistry, and also about community and living each day in the moment. So coming back all these years later with another original show, but this time something that really came from me and from Tina, and to be back in that building where I first learned that if I allow myself to really be who I am and authentic and vulnerable on stage, that people are really going to see me.
And now you're back in that same building.
And now I'm back in the building, and I hope people show up and see me. No, but yeah, a little of that.
Rent is this huge hit musical. You're nominated for a Tony. Afterward, did you kind of have it made?
No. What happened? I got a record deal that I always wanted to get. I wanted to be signed to a record label so badly and make my own album, and I did. And that was a dream come true, but then I only sold like 3 albums. So then I got dropped from the label, and then by that time, my whole kind of momentum of being this Tony-nominated actress from the hit musical Rent had sort of dissipated, and then I had to kind of keep pounding the pavement again, and then it wasn't until Wicked that things started to really look up again. So once again, this idea of really trying to embrace the moment, because in our business things are, they ebb and flow, and those magical moments can be fleeting.
I think people see that and say, oh my goodness, if you're nominated for a Tony, you're in this hit show, then life is golden after that, but it still is a struggle.
It can be a struggle, yeah.
You've said that Wicked saved you?
Did I say that?
Yeah.
It's very hyper.
Is that a little hyperbolic?
Yeah. I usually say If Then, which is a show I did 10 years ago, saved me, because I was going through a divorce, and the show is about a woman following 2 paths. and watching them simultaneously, how they unfold. And I was a woman at a crossroads in my life, and also the cast, the community. Being in the theater, being in a room like this, in a rehearsal room, is just like where I feel so safe and a part of something. And so back then in that show, the cast was really like a family, and we were all really there for each other. And it's the same thing with this cast, with Redwood, which it has to be, because it's a show about connectivity and roots that are all holding each other up. Thousands of different trees' roots all clasping together like this. They're all, hydrating each other, lifting each other up, healing one another. And so it's just one of those things through osmosis, I think, that we as a cast and as a company, we have to infuse that feeling, because that's what we're saying when we're on stage. We're saying that you as the audience and us as the cast, we're having this very reciprocal relationship, the symbiotic thing that I feel like I'm putting out energy and just as much as coming back to me. And that's why I feel so invigorated.
And it's all about connectivity, this show, that everybody's connected.
All about connectivity. There's sort of three attributes of the Redwoods that I love. One of the most miraculous things about the Redwoods are their root system. They can be over 300 feet high, standing for 1,000 years. They're like the height of the Statue of Liberty, and you'd think their roots go super deep in order to counterbalance their height, but they don't. They're almost like a couple feet, 6 feet in the ground, and they kind of go out like this, and they all clasp hands, and they're interconnected in that way. And then the Redwoods also actually can thrive in fires, because the fire opens up their seeds and gets the resin moving so that the seeds, in the cones, so that the seeds can disperse and bring new life. And you'll see that some of the redwoods, when you go there, their trunks can be really charred and black looking, but they're still standing. They're still as strong as ever. And then the most poignant thing to me is something they have called heartwood, like your heart. And heartwood is like the innermost part of the redwood, and it's impervious to disease and decay, but it's actually dead inside the tree, but it's the strongest part of the tree. And so I love that this idea of our loss and our troubles as human beings kind of help define who we are. And if we can embrace that loss and that pain, then we can live again.
I want to go back a little bit in biography. So Rent, then Wicked. What did Elphaba give you?
Green ears for the rest of my life? No, Elphaba to find my light, whether it's your spotlight, the sun, whatever the light is, to not be afraid to step into it. I was intimidated at that time in my life and pretty insecure about some stuff, and so I was forced through her spirit to step into my light. She also taught me not to be afraid of my power and even my anger, my ferociousness, is that a word? Ferocity. And that as a woman, that was okay. And even if it makes people uncomfortable, and that we're not really doing anyone any favors if we succumb or recede into the shadows. We need to be our best selves to make a difference in the world.
Do you find that each of these characters that you play teach you a little something?
Yeah.
So how about Jessie? What is she teaching you?
Well, I'm learning every day while we're in in the rehearsal room, and when we did it at La Jolla. So I'm learning new things from Jessie every day. I just actually was looking at some of my notes, and I realized that there's 4 S's that I'm going to think about when I think about Jessie's character. There's when she's in the tree, in the redwood, She's forced to sit, to be still, to be in silence, and to surrender, to just being.
Are you able to embrace that part of you, the sitting still,
Never.
silent? No.
Once in a blue moon, I can do it. I did go up into the canopy of the Redwoods recently with a fascinating, amazing man named Tim Kovar, who's one of the only people in the country, in the world, who's licensed to take people up into the canopy of the Redwoods. And so we did that and actually sang to him, I serenaded him up there 300 feet up in the canopy as we listened to the birds and hung out in our harnesses.
Whoa.
And it's something that's indescribable, really, but definitely this idea of how small we are in the scope of the universe, you know, something so humbling about that and also peaceful about that. I hope people can get that from the show. I think they will. I think Tina's vision of the show is extraordinary, and she's managed to somehow have a marriage between this really intimate, small lens that brings you in close into this woman's story, while also being able to open up on this grand scale and feel the world around you. And somehow she does that dance for you as the audience that I think's pretty magical.
And I can testify that it works.
Oh, yeah,
From La Jolla.
yeah.
And I know it's only gotten better.
It has.
Let's talk about another one of these songs of empowerment. What's your relationship with Let It Go?
What's your relationship with letting
Well,
go?
I had a young
love-hate
daughter when that
relationship
came
with it?
out, and
You did?
so,
Okay, so-
you can imagine that
Yeah.
I heard a lot.
My relationship with Let It Go is fabulous. I mean, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me, other than having an amazing son, getting married and falling in love. But like, you know, from a professional point of view, what better than to have a song in your career? It's not only a hit, but it's a song that resonates and means so much to so many generations. At this point, it's starting to, you know, ripple. But also because it's parents and children, that has such a beautiful message, very similar to Elphaba and Wicked, about embracing your power. And I get to sing it every time that I'm on stage in my concerts. People always say, do you get sick of a song like that? And maybe they think I'm lying to you, but I really don't. To me, it's one of those things, to bring it full circle, that reminds me of how lucky I am, that when I was a little girl, if I would have dreamt that I'd be up there singing a song like this, that with little girls in blue dresses, you know, clapping for me, and huge, you know, in arenas all over the world, I mean, I wouldn't have believed it. Or, no, I would have, because I really was very cocky when I was little, and I actually, you know, believed in myself and thought, it's definitely gonna happen for me. That's gone away now that I'm older. As the older I get, the more insecure I've gotten. But back then, little Idina in Long Island was very sure of herself.
Little Idina was, yes.
Yes.
How great it is that you could have never imagined.
To have a song like this that I get to sing every night, that reminds me that not only am I a role model for little kids in that way and teach them to feel empowered and to embrace their individuality, but also as a 53-year-old woman to do the same thing, you know, and also be present and take in the moment.
You're a Broadway icon, but now you're more than that. The outside world knows you as well. So what is it like to come back to Broadway? Does it make it all the more sweeter that it's like you started here on Broadway, then you've gone out to the world, and now you're back?
Yes. And this is my home, really. New York, Broadway, it's my home. It's where I've felt the most comfortable and the closest to my authentic self in my life. You know, in our show, Jessie feels quite alone a lot in her life, not just because she's up in a tree for a long period of time, but I think just spiritually and in her soul. And I think that all of us obviously experience feeling alone or lonely, depending on how you look at it. But when I'm here, rooms like this are like a sanctuary for me, especially even more so the room than the actual stage in the theater. This room where we're all together on a mission to put on a play and make something beautiful and do it together. And the theater community is just, they're the most supportive people in the world, and everyone is welcome, and we're silly and we're stupid and we're funny, and some of us are smart. You talking to Tina, you heard how brilliant she is. We're free and we're insane. But that's why you can just be yourself. So all the other things I've experienced in my life now that I've gone out and done some film and television and toured, those are all so gratifying. But this is just where my heart is.
It's got to be great to be back.
Yeah.
As we approach this, I mean, this is a long time in the making. You guys talked about this for more than a decade, and now here it is on Broadway. How are you feeling?
I feel very emotional today, maybe knowing that I was coming in here. This is sort of like a christening of the show, to sit down and do an interview with you about this show that I love so much, that I've created with Tina and then Kate, our amazing composer, but that Tina and I go back so long with this little kernel of an idea. And it's just so rare that you get to dream something up with someone that you love and admire and see it come to fruition after so many years. And they're literally loading things into the Nederlander as we speak. And that accomplishment isn't lost on me. And it's just, I just feel really emotional about it.
What do you mean?
I think I just feel really proud of this show. And I'm proud that I have played such a huge role in creating it and what it's about, conceiving it, shepherding it. I can't predict the outcome. I have no control over that. I don't know how many people will actually show up to see it, but it's something that I feel in my heart that the world should see, that we're at this very, really tumultuous, complicated time in our lives, in our world. I think it's something we all need. We need a little healing right now, and we also need to take ourselves back to nature and to see our presence around the trees and the soil and the sky and the stars, and that we're all similar in that way, and hopefully as the roots of the Redwood can bring us closer together in this time that's so fraught with pain.
This is huge. It's like you guys thought of this, you noodled over it for a very long time, It's like nursing something like a tree, right? Something that grows, and now here it is.
Exactly. We go on our separate ways and get distracted with different projects, and then see each other somewhere, at a press event or whatever, and then say like, are we ever gonna come back to our idea? Yes, love you. I think like in a year I can do it. And then different things would happen. And then during the pandemic, she found herself thinking about our idea again. And she called me and said, A Woman in a Tree, it's a musical. I think we need to be doing this now. And I said, thank you.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
It's about time, I'm ready.
Yes. And then 6 months into us starting to thought partner on it, she had this death in her family, and that clarified what the journey of this woman in our show, what her experience was, why she would go up into a tree for quite a long period of time. So then she became very passionate, and then things just started moving. Now we're here. The Nederlander renovated, and their seats are different than so many of the other theaters. You know how you go in the red velvet seats? In the Nederlander, they're green. They're like an olivey green seat, which is not the wicked thing. For me, it's the nature
It's trees,
thing. Yeah.
leaves, yeah.
Yeah, but I think green and being high, flying, literally or figuratively, is just something that I must respond to or attract in my life, in my characters, and I'm kind of happy with that.